Hello. And here we go.
4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 present.
We have only 9 members, so we have.
We definitely have a quorum.
Yes.
And having said that, could we get an approval of today's agenda? Hearing no objections. How about the minutes? Everyone have a chance to peruse the minutes? Can we get approval of those?
There will be some corrections. Chris called me earlier and his name is misspelled, and I think there are some attendance issues, so I will look back and change a few of those things.
Was his name misspelled because he's not here today?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, then. All right, let me give you an update on what is happening. As far as fare and toll increases are concerned, you all know that the fare increase has been put off. It is likely to be heard again in the spring. I don't know when in the spring, but if they wait much longer, they would have to do the hearings again. And I'm sure they don't want to do that, not to mention that they're losing money every month. We don't have the fare hikes, although it is a good signal to riders that we would like you to come back, and we're not raising your fare. The tolls, however, you have all heard, I am sure, are going up. They are going up an average of 7.8%, which is a 6% yield. Just to give you an idea what that equates to, I have, for instance, if you're an Easy Pass user on the major crossings, you're paying $6.12 now, it goes to $6.55. If you're not an Easy Pass user, you're paying $9.50, it goes to $10.17. Obviously, most people will not be paying cash because the 17 cents makes it pretty awkward at a toll booth. There is also a new policy in order to encourage motorists to get your pass in the proper place. If you don't have it in the proper place, but you have one, you will be charged an amount between the Easy Pass and the non-Easy Pass amount. I believe it's $8 and change. I asked why, if you want to encourage motorists to put their Easy Pass tags in the correct place, you don't charge the full price if it isn't. They said they want to encourage people to become Easy Pass members. If there was continual misuse, for instance, somebody lent their tag to another vehicle, for instance, but they kept getting the break, they will be looking at the license plate tags. And if there is a license plate where there is a repeated misuse or non-proper positioning of your tag, you will be charged the full rate. So it is definitely not a good thing to do that repeatedly. But I wanted to make sure I made that point. As far as COVID update, we were told recently that new rates for new cases are dropping by almost 50%, which is great news for MTA employees. There have been 30,000 diagnostic tests done to date. And just a few days ago, I think maybe 2 days ago, a new vaccination center was opened at Livingston Plaza for employees in downtown Brooklyn. So there's now one at the Javits Center and one at Livingston Plaza. I know Chair Foy got his first vaccination 2 days ago. I was fortunate, I didn't use that particular facility, but I got mine on Feb 12th and my second one will be on March 12th. So that is a great thing. As far as the toll hikes, there was no elimination of resident discounts for both Staten Island and the Rockaways, which is a good thing. That mid-tier rate that I told you about for when Easy Passes are not in the correct position, that comes out to $8.36. So it is between the Easy Pass and the non-Easy Pass rate. Believe it or not, on the toll hikes, in the special sign-up place that you could sign up just to comment on toll hikes. Not one comment was received. It was all done during the fare hike hearings, which is when obviously Staten Islanders made themselves very widely known, and what they thought about the removal of the possible removal of resident discounts. Fortunately, that did not happen. On the crime report, everybody has seen the high-profile crimes recently: the punchings, the shovings, the stabbings. We have gotten an additional 644 officers underground. I have spoken to some of them on my routine travels. I thank them. I tell them, you probably want to be near the booths, because that's where people who are entering the system and committing crimes are coming through without paying. If we can stop them there, we can stop a lot of this crime, and they agree. We are awaiting a meeting with our new transit police chief, O'Reilly, because we want to talk to her about several issues. But there is definitely, if you've ridden in the past week, you will definitely notice the presence of a lot more police officers, which is a good thing. They are also on the trains, they're on the platforms, as well as at the booth areas. There is a fairly controversial, Sharon is here. Yes.
Can I, no, but I want to say something about the police. They're all on their cell phones, and they're all in clumps, in not very strategic places in the stations. I see them all the time in the middle instead of watching the doors.
I've seen them on the stairways between platforms in some cases.
Yeah, can somebody do something about, keeping, at least can we report when we see them in other places? And could somebody try to give them instructions of where to stand and how to be more useful?
I'm not an expert, Sharon, but I think they're trying to give the impression that they can be anywhere, which is why they are sort of everywhere at the moment.
Well, but they're not anywhere.
There is a union rule. They must be in at least two of them together, but frequently you will see more. I've seen 4 together on many occasions as well.
Oh, I saw 9 the other day.
Then they were probably getting dispersed to other locations.
Didn't appear that way, but okay.
What station was that?
That was Grand Central.
Oh, yeah.
They were all just up by the door, 9 of them on their cell phones, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to go back to mute.
Okay, thank you. As far as the financial update, Chief Financial Officer Bob Foran told us that 2020 was finished in very good shape. Subsidies came in, and the B&T surplus was higher than anticipated. Obviously, the $4 billion we got from one of the COVID relief in December was not the $4.5 billion we had expected, so that left a half a million dollar hole. But it is expected that in the new bills that are coming, we will be doing a lot better. Also, we are no longer an anarchist jurisdiction, so we will be getting federal FEMA funds, as well as some other funds that have been withheld from us. So that is great news. However, not to make it all sound wonderful, Bob Foran did suggest that at some point we may need to right-size service, which to me is a service cut, obviously. If he had said, we're going to, because rush hour is not as busy as it was and more people are traveling in the shoulders or off peak, and we're going to shift more service to that time away from rush hours, that would be one thing, but that is not the way it was told to us. So I'm a little nervous about that right sizing. You know that F and C service has already been cut. We can definitely feel that here on the C line. Fortunately, there's also a B train where the C runs.
There is for now. I would anticipate that is next to get cut.
What do you mean?
From what I understand, the B and the W are up next on the service reduction side.
You mean in terms of frequencies?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but that doesn't mean it's going away.
We don't know that. We do not know that. It's very possible. Look what's happening on the Long Island Railroad. There's significant changes that are happening, just happening.
Yeah, that is true. But if you remove the W, that means other implications as well. So for the Broadway BMT along in Manhattan. So hopefully ridership has actually been picking up, and I've noticed that not everywhere, but in certain locations. The terrible service cuts that were threatened if we didn't get federal aid are not happening. And Bob did say there would be no service cuts in 2021 or 2022. I guess right sizing is not considered a service cut, but I believe that it is. And if you want to get people back and you want people to social distance, cutting service and cutting lines is not the way to go, apparently. So that is troubling. Let me give you a little more. Let's see.
Andrew, do you want to touch upon the state raid?
Yeah, I mean, or you can, but I thought you might do that when I'm done, because you have commented on it. Other on the advocates calls that you've been on, other groups have commented on it. I don't know what good a lockbox is if someone has the key to it and is raiding it. This should be of great concern to everybody. There's a reason we call these things lockboxes, and there's a reason that the money is earmarked for specific uses. If the PMT and other specifically earmarked for MTA can be raided, how do you justify asking Washington for help if you're not even doing what you said you were going to do here in the state? It's troubling. Do you want to just comment on that, Lisa, right now?
Sure. As you said, it's come to light a little increasingly that there were when the pandemic started and the budget was passed last year, there were additional emergency powers that came to the governor, including additional authority over the budget, and about $500 million was withheld from the MTA. And there was a piece in the Gothamist earlier last week, that talked about that with an indication that that money should be returned. But there's no way to find out how much money is being diverted from the MTA's coffers. So, fortunately, we are working with an active advocacy community and good government groups that really are keeping their eye on that, including Reinvent Albany and the Citizens Budget Commission, who just want to, who are advocating for transparency and to ensure that money that's supposed to go where it's supposed to go is going where it's supposed to go. Right now,
not to be redundant.
Right, exactly. But redundantly to be redundant. So hold on, Trudy, hold on.
Okay, and then let me talk about what's going on with the money coming from Washington.
Okay, but please let me finish. Thank you.
I was trying to get in before. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So there's still $98 million. So that about $500 million that was withheld as indication that that money will be returned to the MTA. That comes from things like MTA appropriated funds. So things that are dedicated to the MTA but are not off budget. So one of the things that we are continuing to try to do is to make things off budget so they don't go through the general fund, so they can't be diverted. For instance, the internet sales tax, which is part of the congestion pricing fees that are supposed to come directly to the MTA, are not off budget. So those are more easily diverted. We're trying to work to get those. That was an omission when that legislation was written. Right now in the governor's budget, or in the executive budget, there's $145 million about cut for the MTA's budget, which would be the amount, as Andrew I think pointed, would be the almost exact amount of what the fare hikes would be. there is a lot of movement among the Senate and the Assembly to make that not happen. Particularly with the state and local funding that's coming down and with the dedicated funding that's coming to the MTA from on the federal level. But sort of the hazy area is the $98 million from last year that we don't want to be forgotten and just go away. That money needs to come back. Every dollar that's diverted from the MTA is basically a dollar that's diverted from riders. And so we're hot on that, working with an advocacy community locally and nationally, as you've heard us discuss before. One of the things that we're also talking about with them is ensuring that any service restorations be a condition of federal funding. So.
And speaking of federal funding, the latest bill has $30 billion in it for transit nationwide. And it's hoped that the MTA could get maybe $8 billion out of that, which would go a long way towards staving off any service cuts. Although the kinds of right sizing that, and as I started to mention before, on March 8th, the Long Island Railroad is changing its schedules in a possibly major way. We're trying to find out the exact details, but it looks like it could be largely weekend service on weekdays, not in rush hour. And every line would continue to be served. But if you formerly had a half-hour wait and your wait is going to an hour, you might think twice.
And you have to say right sizing.
Yes, right sizing.
Right, and I just want to say, Trudy, and then I'm turning it right over to you, that the amount of money that the MTA has asked for and that the transit agencies nationally have asked for is a slightly bigger pot than $30 billion. Obviously, they're supportive of that, but that would take them through 2023, and they would need some additional funds through 24. So that's still out there.
Trudy, you want to give an update on federal funding? If you're muted, unmute.
Trudy, you're muted.
I'll do it again. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Now we can.
I keep on unmuting myself and then you tell me to shut up. So now you want me to speak.
We never said shut up.
Well, in a nice way. Okay. Because I want to correct, not that I would ever correct anything that you or Lisa say, but I'm going to correct. It is 40, and then a lot of zeros after that, billion.
Yeah,
okay.
I said 30, but if it's up
But
now,
it's
that's
40. No, it
okay.
is 40. And the amount, and this is in the legislation, and the amount that New York is slated for is 8 billion.
That I did say.
The number 8 and a lot of zeros after that. The money that is forthcoming now is not a half that we still didn't get, is not a $500,000. It's a $500 million.
$1 billion.
Yeah, because you said
500,000. Yep.
No, not 500,000.
500 million.
Million, excuse me. Yes,
it's a
right.
half. That's what I wanted to correct. It's a $500 million. That is still. I know when you get dealing with all those zeros, it gets. What was it that Edward Dirksen once said? But at that time they were talking about millions, and they said once you get into the millions, you're talking real money. Now you're talking real money when you get into the billions. Okay, so that is the amount that is in the new stimulus package that is going to be voted on sometime. Well, it was supposed to be today, but with everything else going on, I believe it's going to be by next Friday. They keep on changing the date when it will be voted on. It is so important, and I'm saying this to everybody who is on this call, that if you know anybody, we don't have to worry about the New York delegation, but if you know any, especially members of the Senate, or people who live in any other states, especially places like Arizona, I can send you know it in the papers, West Virginia, even though we have Joe Manchin, he sometimes waffles, but it is important that you get to every member of your organizations or anything and tell them that it is so important that we get the new stimulus bill, the money, because there is money designated, not just packages or anything, for mass transit. and we get 8 billion. I'm repeating it again. That's a lot of money, and that'll carry us through at least fiscal 23, maybe even further than that, depending on what's happening with all the other stuff that's going on. And I'm happy to report the USDOT is focusing on this, talking about it as part. They consider transportation an integral part of the whole infrastructure situation, and that's what. So it has a great importance on the federal level. As far as the other thing that will bring us money, the congestion pricing, that is now moving through, and I'm not sure. I keep on getting every time I ask, I get different reports, whether it's going to whether it's going the long route, the EPA, or the short route. But whatever it is going through now, and we should be seeing that money. I don't know. I'm told in a couple of months, I'm told by the summer, I'm told by the end of the year, but that money will be, congestion pricing will be approved. And the good thing about that is that we can then issue bonds and get real money and really fast. And Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong about this, because what I know about bonds goes back to my days with Dick Ravage, but we can issue bonds against the full faith and credit of the money that we're going to get through congestion pricing.
Oh, absolutely. We're
I mean,
supposed to be
that's the
able to
way
issue bonds in the tune of 11 billion a year
Right, and that's the way I understand it.
for
So
the
it's not
$54
just,
billion capital
it's
program.
not just the
But my
money.
understanding was not till the money comes in, that
No.
when we get $1 billion, we can bond.
No,
that
once we know that it is coming in, once it has been approved and we get the write-off from EPA, et cetera, it is my understanding that we can then, and that's why I said, Andrew, if you can check it out with Bob Ferran or with, because when I mentioned this, never mind who I'm talking to or whatever, it was my understanding that as soon as it is approved and as soon as we get the write-off from EPA and we know that the money is on the way, that we can then start the process of issuing bonds.
We've also, of course,
Is
have to put
that the way it? No,
Yes,
I
you're right.
understand that. Okay.
Once it's approved, we can, yes.
Once
But we
it's
have
approved,
we
not-
have infrastructure that has to go in. The traffic mobility panel has to be,
Yeah,
fees have to be set. Yeah.
But once it is approved, we can start the whole process. And we don't have to wait until we actually get the money in, as long as we have the
I
approval.
think you're right,
And
Drew.
it goes through the whole process. Okay, that as I said, that is my understanding. But you talk to three different people and you get three different stories. So. And then each of them has questions for me. And if I can bring something else up, because it gets with all of my quote sources and contacts and everything else. One of the things that I get, and Lisa, this is no detriment to you because you're doing one hell of a job when you testify on our behalf. But because you testify on our behalf, I get like from the last board meeting, I get people then calling me or texting me or anything saying, did you guys actually vote and approve on opening, 2 hours more at night? But because I didn't see anything about that, or I didn't hear anything that you actually wanted to do it. And I say, well, it was the consensus. So could I ask when?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. We were commenting on the MTA's action.
Yeah, but you were speaking on behalf of I'm just telling you what I get back. If you could if you're going to be speaking on behalf of either the PCAC or the TRC, can you do one of two things? Can you either let us know your testimony in advance? This is to preserve what's left of my sanity. So
I generally write it pretty much the day I'm testifying. So
Okay,
no, but Andrew sees anything that goes out ever.
well, if you could maybe then make it clearer that but if you're going to speak on something that a lot of people and this is not about me, even though, whatever my feelings were when we discussed it, or maybe if it's a controversial issue and we're discussing it and you're going to speak about it, we could take a quick vote as so that you are speaking on behalf of, because when you speak, the impression is that you're speaking on behalf of the TRC or the PCAC.
Right,
And
I'm
I'm just
speaking on
saying,
behalf of the PCAC with the approval of the chairs. I am indeed.
well, maybe it should be that you just take a quick vote, or you let us know, or
It just
something.
really, there just isn't that time. So I'm sorry that there really isn't the time. I got a call at 5 o'clock at night on my day off that there were going to be, that the governor announced that there were changes. I was done. I was leaving. I was on my way out, and I had to rewrite my testimony. That's not it. And then we had to comment on it, and we got calls. There's just no way. It's too clunky to have any kind of that conversation. So I
Okay.
just, that, from what I know, that's never worked that way. And from what I understand, it never could work that way.
No, well, Beverly used to do it, and Bill really didn't testify that much. But going way back. But I'm just, as I said, this is
We
a
don't
point of
always have that
personal-
luxury of time.
This is a
We
point
just
of
don't have
personal
that
privilege.
luxury.
But
Yeah.
Andrew, then can I ask you if you can just forward it to me if you think it's going to be something that might
Yeah,
be
I wouldn't have thought
controversial?
reopening for 2 hours was controversial. I
It
think we all
was.
want,
We
I don't know
didn't,
why.
it wasn't our idea.
I understand that. Look, as I'm
We were
saying,
I'm not,
if it's a
I actually am
problem,
trying, I don't want to argue. I'm trying to understand what the issue is. The governor decided to do that. And
I
we said,
know,
that's
but
great. And then we
you,
said 2 more hours would be even better, which is what we've been saying for months. So
okay.
I don't understand why it wasn't our
Well,
decision to
the
open a
impression,
subway.
something, one of the things that when I teach communications, the facts are irrelevant. It's the perception that
But
counts.
it wasn't,
So
I don't
the
understand what
perception was that we had taken a position on this.
of course we
Look,
had. And it was that it was the more open the subways are, the better.
no,
Yeah,
but we never,
discuss
we
that every
never,
month.
because essential workers need 24/7. Now we
I
have vaccination
understand, I
centers open
understand.
24/7.
It was
but-
in support of what the governor was doing.
Okay, forget
So
about it
what's,
then.
I don't
Can I
understand the
ask
issue.
if Andrew, the issue is that there were some people who felt that the cleanliness was more important than the godliness or whatever, and that they wanted to keep it. There were a lot of people who wanted to keep it closed for the full 4 hours because they wanted to keep the, whether they're germaphobes or whatever. Look, this can go on and on and on. We can talk offline. But I just wanted to report to you what I had been getting. And as I said,
That's not what we've been getting. I mean, that's not what we've even discussed
no,
here. And the
people,
science.
All
okay,
right,
but
well,
I am letting you
I
know
think the
that
point has
people
been
will
made.
not call you or anything. They call me. Honest, and this
I
goes
get a lot
on
of
all the
calls
time.
myself.
I know,
You
but
know what's very interesting though?
let's just keep. I really don't want to make a whole big megillah. If you're going, if you've approved something, Andrew, and if you can help you, and you think that I should know about it because of all the people that I'm in contact with all the time,
Got
I
it.
would appreciate it. Okay. And if anybody else wants it, I'm assuming if you're forwarding it to me, you can, anybody else who's, who's on the TRC and wants it, I'm sure you would be willing to send
Okay,
it.
we
It's
got
also
it.
on our website. It's posted publicly on our website as well. Andrew,
I
I believe
I see the raised
Christopher.
hand, but
That's
I didn't.
Christopher.
Okay, but I didn't actually finish one of my reports, which was.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
capital-
I'm sorry.
cap-
Everybody was interrupting.
That's okay.
I have
The,
one more
capital
matter, then
program.
finish your report, and then I have one more matter, very, very brief.
Okay, the capital program has resumed, not full until we know congestion pricing is coming, but some aspects of it have resumed. And there are a number of transit stations that are going to be made accessible this year, I believe, and they are Woodhaven Boulevard on the Jamaica line, Queensboro Plaza, 181st Street on the A line, Court Square on the Crosstown line, on the G line that is, obviously, 14th Street and 6th and the 14th Street and 7th Avenue complex. They would like to do these together. They will actually save money if these can be done together. 8th Avenue on the Sea Beach line, Westchester Square on the number 6. And they're also going to replace 16 elevators, 12 escalators, do circulation improvements in Flushing Main Street, and repairs to subway and elevated train stairways. So there are some good things happening. Obviously, we'd like to see more, but the money hasn't opened up again yet, but I believe congestion pricing is on the way. We have heard from that the Federal Highway Administration is looking at this right now and is prepared to give the MTA their answer pretty shortly. Trudy, what else did you have? And then Chris. And of course, we have, as everybody has now heard, a new director of accessibility for the entire MTA. That's Metro North, Long Island Railroad, and Transit. Quimel Arroyo, otherwise known as Q. He is a wheelchair user from the Washington Heights area.
Andrew, can you unmute me? You said you wanted me.
You're unmuted now.
Okay, let me just bring up one more matter which has to do with money from the state. And I would suggest, and maybe we can get it and send it out to everybody, but there is a report that was put out by the New School Center for New York City Affairs, and it's the economic impact on the legalization of pot, and they actually use the word pot. I thought it was legalization of cannabis, but their report title is on the legalization of pot. Why is that important to us? Because of the tax revenue, additional tax revenue that is going to be coming through. And the legislation on that will take place up in Albany prior to the budget, which has to be completed so that it can be so that the whatever it is will be in the budget. And they are expecting that there will be 700 to 800 million per year coming in. And some of the revenue generated by the legalization of pot and through sales taxes, through various other means, is supposed to go to mass transit, to us. So I mean,
and now there's more pressure since New Jersey has approved it.
New Jersey has just approved it, and so, but no, I mean, I think that there's general agreement, and this report was cited to me, and I actually I have a hard copy of it. I don't have it online, but I understand it's online. And again, it's called The Economic Impact of the Legalization of Pot. And it was written by a man named James Parrott, like the bird, from the New School Center for New York City Affairs, which has issued it. And I would suggest that at least we get a copy of that, you know, to have in the office, but other people may want to read it also. So anyway,
thank you.
And that's the last thing that I have to say regarding money and grass, cannabis, pot, whatever.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I just put a link to that in the chat for anybody.
I saw that.
So I know Chris has his hand up, and I saw that Mike had his hand up too. May I make our announcement?
Yes.
Okay. So
Hey guys.
so Sheila Benesh will be leaving PCAC. Her last day is March 11th. So we are now down to Bradley and myself. So Trudy, all of the things that you're asking for are, if they've been difficult before, are basically impossible now. So we're going to ask for your assistance. If you find a report that you think other people would like, please share a link with us or share a link with your fellow members. That's great. We we are trying to keep our heads above water. We're trying to get more staff, but the MTA has instituted a permanent freeze. So if they can't get train operators, I don't know that they're going to get support for PCAC. It's a very difficult and challenging time, and we are one of many who are facing this. So we're going to ask for your continued support and understanding, but it's going to mean, yeah, that some things are just not going to happen as they did. We haven't had an admin since July. So you'll see that the meeting reminder came today. That's because Andrew said, are you going to send out a meeting reminder? I was like, oh, right. I was trying to save our Zoom today. I was trying to, work on the Long Island railroads and trying to write up the staff reports, and Bradley's working on 2 reports and managing our 2 interns. In addition to doing the other activities, that we're trying to
So
balance.
that's why you were wearing that Save Our Zoom t-shirt.
Yeah. It's along with my cape, but so, we've gone from when I started in 2018, myself and 5 staff members, to myself and 1. So,
Which we hope to be able to change.
Hiring them away.
and it's not my fault, but, understanding that nobody's gotten a raise and there's no promotional opportunities, there's no room to grow. I'm basically, I have chained Bradley to his computer and he's not allowed to leave. But if he does, then there's a technical term for what we are. And Andrew knows what it is, but
this is a G-rated program.
right.
Yeah.
So, our next step is we just will not be able to fulfill our legislative mandates, and we'll have to seek relief that way.
We went through this once before during the fiscal crisis, and we could appeal not for new staff or new hiring, but because we can't, I know it worked before, just replace, there's some term for it, no, I don't know what the term is, but you guys can find out, where you're not adding staff, you're not doing hiring, and it is just replacing.
Yeah.
Oh, we've
Yeah.
tried that, Trudy.
That's frozen too. That's called backfilling positions. That's
Backfilling, that's it, yes,
Yep,
yeah.
nope, we did that. Andrew and I were literally standing in front of the Vacancy Control Committee last year. And we were about to go in to our meeting, and Andrew was called in and came out and said, nope, they're locking it down.
Well,
And
maybe we could try again, given the.
we are working on
We
it.
are trying, believe
We
me,
are trying,
Okay,
trust me.
Lisa,
on many fronts.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lisa, just a question on that.
Mhm.
Does the authority's HR team have what they call a transfer list? That there are people within the title that you are looking to fill that want to leave their unit for one reason or another. So there's no net gain in the payroll, but they would just transfer because.
Right, well,
some
I
issue.
actually, I offered that a year ago because of
Okay.
transformation. So they, a year ago, they were looking to reduce headcount by 2,700. They've exceeded that with the number of retirements and people who've moved on. So now there's continued savings that they're trying to realize. However, I would prefer somebody who comes from within, so we don't have to teach them everything, and who has relationships and contacts.
Or even what they call a reasonable accommodation request. There may be people within different units that need to transfer for one reason or another.
Good question.
Right, so that's, yeah, we'll raise that as well. And Bert had a question as well. Thank you, Stuart.
Lisa, I got your note on the drug link. Could you send that out regular mail? Because I can't pick it up off the call. It's going to disappear when the call is over.
We'll send it afterwards, Bert.
I'm
Fine,
gonna
but
do it
I
right
mean,
now,
I-
otherwise if I don't do it right
I
now,
will
it's not gonna
send-
happen.
no,
So,
I will
okay.
send you, oh, okay, because I was going to say per Lisa's request, I will be happy to send the mailing address of the new school and how you get it by mail, hard copy, just like I got mine. So I will be happy to do that and save you.
Somebody
You know,
send out
any
a link.
further. What?
I've just sent it, just sent the link.
Thank you. Regular mail, regular email.
Yep,
Oh,
Thank-
I thought he said that he couldn't get it online, so.
I just,
but-
no, he said through the chat.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
Thank you.
If you do that, but you may want to just, contact the new school. You can pick up the phone and call them, or whatever,
Okay.
and they're happy to send it out.
Thank you.
And they pay the postage.
Keep you posted on any
Is
festivities.
that Chris's hand up, Lisa?
I believe so. Christopher?
Yes, it is, Andrew. I'm here. I'm live at Silver Avenue Tournament doing the match for.
Oh, my gosh. How's it going?
Yes, I am. Going really well down here because we had a full house. We had 10 people attending both tours already.
Great.
Actually, I'm sorry, make that 12 for this tour. So they said, Chris, go take a break and go get grief for Andrew Albert. They told me to tell you.
Thank you.
No, we're really, I have to say, we have people traveling along the Q line up to Church Avenue, same as the F up to Church, the D and the N up to 36th Street. I mean, they're giving it out like crazy. This is more than you ever realized.
Well, Southern Brooklyn is getting masked up then.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to let you guys, yeah, but also just want to say one thing. I will miss Sheila, but Brady and Lisa, don't forget, if you need assistance also, that means don't be a stranger to me also, because you can always count on me as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Because at this time in need, we all need to work together and keep the PCAC with CRC, Long Island Metro North, stronger than ever. We've got to keep the positive and strength up.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I'm
I think-
let.
I think that does it for my report. Except that overtime continues to be lower, which is a good thing budget-wise, but means that projects may take longer to complete. So we are watching that, obviously. One of the major advantages of having Majority Leader Schumer in where he is may be that the gateway tunnels get started this year, which will mean major improvements and reliability for not only New Jersey and Amtrak commuters, but also Long Island commuters, since a lot of New Jersey Transit trains use the East River tunnels and lay over in Sunnyside Yards. So we look forward to these major infrastructure improvements coming our way, and congestion pricing obviously will help pay for a lot of this. But Gateway will be a totally different program, federally funded and also by New York State and New Jersey. So we certainly don't want the tunnels under the Hudson to fail. That would be a calamity.
Andrew,
Lisa-
that's part of the 1.9 trillion. Now we got another.
Yeah,
set of
I noticed the
zeros.
trillion in the major package. Yep.
That is part of, it's not in our 40 billion. This is in the total
Oh, yes, it's
1.9
separate. Yep.
trillion. Yeah, well, just so in case anybody was concerned that, it would take money away from us.
No, I
So-
mean, there's all kinds of things. There's even a
but-
high-speed California rail in that.
Yeah,
in that program.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
but it is in that package, and the total of what you should be contacting, everybody should be contacting everybody that they know all over the country, is the $1.9 trillion stimulus package.
And just so everybody knows, in that package that Trudy just mentioned is also a large amount of money for Amtrak. But the president of Amtrak has said if he gets that money, he will restore daily service on the trains that had it, which is very important. And even more important, well, to some people, regular cooked meals instead of boxed lunches on trains that are 48 hours long. I mean, it's just incredible how they dumb down the service. So we all want to see this improve.
Andrew, one of the things that came out this week was that Senator Schumer talked about the Utica Avenue extension. Do you want to expound upon
Yes,
that?
there's been a lot of talk about that. when that idea was first proposed many years ago, Tom Prendergast and I had a really terrific discussion about that. And Tom believes, as I do, and I certainly take his expertise, that would actually really badly impact service at the Utica Avenue and Eastern Parkway station, because from where you would have to start the line to have it go south would impact train service between Utica and New Lots Avenue, and back up that impact all the way, you know, perhaps as far as Atlantic Avenue or Borough Hall. A much better idea I had, and he thought it was a great idea, and I'm not putting words in his mouth because that was years ago, but if you extended the Nostrand Avenue line of the 2 and 5 down Flatbush Avenue to Kings Plaza, you would serve a lot of the same geography. You would have subway service to a major draw, such as Kings Plaza, and you would not impact service along the Nostrand Avenue line because it would be south of the existing line. If you cut into the Eastern Parkway line at Utica, you are going to affect that line. So, you know, we all want to see the transit deserts of Southeast Brooklyn served, but I think there's a better way to do it than what Mayor de Blasio came up with originally, which was a Utica Avenue subway.
Andrew, can you
talking?
Can you
Yes.
clarify, does that have anything to do with the Rogers Junction de-interlining? Or is that completely separate?
You mean Nostrand Junction?
Yeah.
No, that work is separate completely.
Separate, okay.
Just saying, you serve a lot of Southeast Brooklyn and a major shopping mall, which does not have subway service. And that would be a one-seat ride for so many folks in Brooklyn, hundreds of thousands, right to the mall, should you want it, and to part of Gateway Park. And
So-
the thought, you know, just
But one of the things that we're trying to do is keep the senator focused on the projects that we actually 100% need right now, which is to restart the capital program, Second
Absolutely.
Avenue Subway Part 2, Gateway, accessibility projects, Mike, that you raised, but restarting the capital program and putting the money back in the lockbox so that the operations can continue. And those are the billions of dollars that we need first. You know, there is a conversation about earmarks coming back at the congressional level, and you know, maybe those next spare $4 billion will get put toward that kind of expansion projects. But Penn Access is certainly something that would open up service to so many people.
and that's in the
Northeast
works now. It started sort of.
Well, no,
but,
that needs money. That could use
Has
those $4 billion.
Amtrak absolutely agreed to pay for half of the Pelham Bridge for that project to?
Nobody's agreed to anything because everything stopped. So,
Okay, well, that's important.
right, but if we're talking about, that's why we need to keep him directed, just like we need to stay and keep that. So
Yes.
Christopher has his hand raised again.
Why, so he does. Although it looks like a fist now.
Yeah, Andrew, no,
Yeah.
guys, actually, I agree with your saying, Andrew, because that was one idea I brought up to the borough president, Eric Adams, because I told him, and I actually strongly agree with you, Andrew, because it is important that you have that train, and also you can still keep a Flatbush Avenue, but then you're going to have to make a curve to Flatbush. It would still make it more easier because you're not just dealing with Kings Plaza, you're also dealing with people from the Rockaway that use the 235 bus. That will take pressure off the Rockaway area, not just Marine Park area, even down Avenue U. That's like
Absolutely.
another train then. Yeah, but the one
I think
thing
it's
agree
a
with
win-win.
Lisa,
Yeah,
it should be more win-win. That's the route they should be using
but
because
the best part of it, Chris, is it won't impact existing service because it will be south of there.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's not going to interrupt. It's going to make it. It might.
I mean, in the middle of the night,
complain,
if
but-
you needed to move some work equipment through the Nostrand Avenue line into the new part, you could do it.
Yeah, I know that. I can actually do that with my fleet. But I definitely agree with Lisa was saying earlier, or Bradley. I definitely worry about the capital stations accessibility because right now, I'm sorry, I'm saying his name wrong. Mentioned stations, and I'm really glad to see there are stations more stations are going to be added right now being built. Because
Yes,
we
indeed.
Need to make sure because I don't know if Edith's on here today or if she's not. I hope she's doing okay. the main purpose.
I know
is
she
is-
will appreciate 181st on the A line.
She does. She does.
Yep.
It's to her. It's something that the first time when Alex told her, I had to check it. I had to check her pulse. She was shocked, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm checking your pulse if you're breathing." And she realized. She said, "You're right. It's not breathing for 5 seconds." But no,
Yes.
she definitely will agree to that. We just need to work on the Capitol. Let's get the Capitol back on. Let's get the elevators on. Let's get the stations work more lighter, more stronger buses. We need to work on it. Focus strongly of all directions.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Andrew,
Yes.
since Chris brought it up, you might want to talk about something that at least the elderly like me are very pleased about with the new, I can't remember his name either, but the new and the first time director of accessibility.
Yeah, I brought it up
Changing the-
earlier. He
No,
goes
but
by the name
changing
Q
the
now.
changing the title from disability to accessibility, which is really important because it deals with mothers with baby carriages, older people with walkers, not just people with just, and of course, including people with disabilities. But the name change really has great significance to a lot of different groups. And I forget his name, but the way he presented it was quite wonderful also in
His
talking
name is
about.
Quamel Arroyo, otherwise
Okay.
known as
Or you can
Q.
call him Q. Or call him Q. His
Yep.
nickname is Q Train.
I don't think it's difficult to pronounce Quamel, but if people do, well, Q
He's
is
the one
very
told-
good. It's quick.
Yeah, but we
because
shouldn't
when he
do that
spoke-
because of the Q, because of the significance of Q with the crazies and you know going on in Washington.
I thought you were referring to the Q line, Trudy.
No. But anyway, no, seriously, it is wonderful that especially senior citizens and mothers and people who need accessibility further are finally being recognized just by the changing of one word in the title of
Oh,
Q.
accessibility says it all, really.
Exactly.
It's great.
Thank God.
We're
God.
getting closer to our speakers. So Lisa, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
There's a dialogue tonight on parity in transportation. If anybody's interested, we can share that with you. That's being hosted by Riders Alliance. We're continuing to work nationally and locally on the federal funding, because it's regardless of whether everybody's dream come true in this stimulus package, there will always be the need for more. And the next step is really the federal transportation authorization legislation that's coming up that is coming up in this that needs to be drafted and be introduced. That'll be the new guiding legislation. So we're continuing to work on those fronts, but service restoration, transit equity, these are all things that are key consideration and importance.
Yeah, you speak of service restoration when we're about to undergo the reverse of that in some fronts. It's really very depressing.
Well, what happened in Los Angeles was that they had higher than anticipated sales tax revenues that came in, and they were not going to do any service restoration. And the advocacy community clamored to the point that the board of LA Metro actually reversed itself and restored the service. So it's it's a strong voice. It really makes a big difference, and that's one of the reasons that we're continuing to work with our partners and colleagues. And
absolutely, because if you don't restore service, or if you do service adjustments or removals, you then run the risk of, when people start coming back, they come back and get used to using a different mode, and then you've lost that group of riders forever.
We want people to feel safe and comfortable, coming back, especially if somebody hasn't ridden in a year and they're concerned about coming back and they think it's going to be crowded. Running additional service if as possible, not even additional, running the same levels of service,
Yeah.
is going to allow them to decide to make it an informed decision about if they're going to wait 3 minutes for the next train or they have to wait 10 minutes for the next train.
Plus, if you do service cuts and then have to do restorations, this constant changing of schedules is off-putting, and the public doesn't even know about a lot of these changes.
Right. Well, the question, Andrew, the question is what triggers a public hearing and those requirements? So,
Yes,
you know,
It-
maybe that under the emergency powers that are still, the emergency orders, the emergency declaration that's still in effect, that those have been negated, but, you know, it's, the question is why. now.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. I think we're on schedule. Is our speaker?
so I see Elliot is here. Kate, do you want to touch base and see who we have? I see Elliot's here. We've got D. Roger or D. Roger and Nair. I don't know if Craig is one of those people, or how you would like to move forward.
If they're not here, they will be here momentarily. Sunil has joined us.
Great.
Devon Rogers is here. Elliot's here.
Oh, and Craig and Mark just are just about to join.
There we go. So here we are.
Great.
Oh,
I am going to
wonderful.
ask just if, for the folks who don't have their full name, if you could just put that in the chat to me, so I can just have it for our attendance, that would be super. Please, Lisa. Or Kate, if you could just send that to me when you have a chance.
I will do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, it's a great picture. Let's go Mets.
Well, since so many folks have raised bus issues with us, and since buses have taken on even greater added importance since COVID, and obviously in the overnight period when subways are not running, we are really fortunate to have the president of MTA Bus with us today, Craig Cipriano. He's an all-around good guy, a responsive guy. He's been our guest before, and we're just thrilled to have him again today. So Craig, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for having me.
Oh yes, the old bus again, yeah.
That's it. It's my favorite background.
B25.
Good afternoon, everyone. What I thought we would first do before we get into the presentation is just do a quick introduction. You know, a lot of the buses team is here. I'm here in my office at 2 Broadway, and I'm joined socially distanced by Zafira Latif, Bus's acting chief of staff, who's here in my office. But we have a number of the bus team on the call. One person that I think might be new to the group here is Devon Rogers, who's on the call. I'd like him to introduce himself. He's our new vice president of transportation. I mean, I think as most folks know, they have seen and heard from Mike Rybosh over the years, who has since retired.
Yeah.
Give the best, but Devon has taken on that role. So let me pause there before we get on and hand it over to Devon, and then the members of the team on the call here to say hello before we get into the presentation. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Craig. Good morning or good afternoon, all. It's great to be part of this team. I'm looking forward to working with you and accomplishing the goals of transportation. As you know, we're very passionate and concerned about the service we provide. And I'm just grateful to be part of such a great and inspiring team. And we see great things ahead, and working with this committee, we can make that happen.
Great to have you. Thank you so much, Devon.
Thank you.
Why don't we just go around the horn for everyone else on the call from the bus team, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Holmes. I work closely with Craig and Devon. Greetings from the Bus Command Center. I am happy to be here and happy to get started. And like I said, I'm working right now in bus operations, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Good afternoon. This is Sunil Nair. Hello to all of you. I work with Craig and Zafira and the rest of the team on onboard and off-board technologies on our buses. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil.
Yep.
Elliot?
Yeah, hi, Elliot Ward. I work with the Business Strategy Group in the Department of Buses.
Great.
What
Working
is
from
the
home right
business-
now, right?
What is the business strategy group, Elliot?
We do sort of long-range planning and analysis and strategic thinking, mostly to help Craig and Zafira out on, whatever comes up and goal setting and, whatever Craig's got for me.
Elliot is being modest. He does a lot for us. A lot of the analysis, a lot of the planning. He works very closely with our electric bus team on the the technical side. He does more of the planning side on that, as well as work very closely with the operations planning and DOT on busway implementation, TSP, and the like. So he's a key piece of the team here for sure.
Great.
Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Weiss. I work with operations planning.
And we recognize you, Sarah.
And then Robert and Kate, do you want to just introduce before we get on?
Sure. Kate Contino. I work in the Office of Government and Community Relations with Rob Marino. And I do a lot of bus organizing.
And there's the aforementioned Rob Marino.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think everyone knows me from government.
Okay.
Thanks for having us, Andrew.
It's sunny there, Rob.
How about that?
Yeah.
Lots of light coming in.
Okay. Great. So why don't I get into the presentation? Kate,
Can I just want to stop you briefly?
I'm sorry.
So
Sure,
just to
absolutely.
go over a little bit of the rules of the road for everyone here.
Sure.
So let's let Craig get through his presentation. I'm going to turn over the presentation, and then we're going to have. So if you guys have a question, please write it down. Then we're going to go through the members. The members are going to have the opportunity to ask questions. Andrew will call on people, so please raise your hands. After Chris, put your hand down. This is
Put your
after
hand
the
down, Chris. It's
presentation.
too early.
It's too early. And then after the members have had a chance to ask questions, then we will go to our other guests. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
And let me share screen with you.
Great. So we had put together a presentation just to provide some updates on state of the bus system, where we've been since the coronavirus pandemic, some updates from the last time we met on the bus plan. And again, just try to hit topics that we thought would be interesting to those on the call here. I know, everyone will have their own specific questions and we're happy to take those at the end. Or if your question has to do with a specific slide, if you want to raise your hand on that slide, I'm happy to address it at that point as well. Whatever works best here. So I know who has the control, Lisa or Kate?
I've turned it over to who would like it.
No, I mean, just to throw it up on the screen. Are we going to do that?
Oh, I don't have the presentation unless you just sent it to me.
Sorry, Craig, I was under the impression that you were going to share your screen.
Oh, that's right. Does someone have me as a backup? Because I didn't prepare it that way, but we did discuss that. You're 100% Kate, right? We did discuss that.
I think Elliot's prepared to back you up.
Yeah, let's see if
Elliot, you have it? Thank you.
Yeah, let's see if this works here.
Perfect.
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.
Folks seeing this?
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
You want to just go to
Yeah,
the agenda
sorry.
and we'll go from there.
Oops.
Great.
Beautiful.
And I've started us at the end. Apologies.
It's actually my fault.
There we go.
Okay, why don't we just go to the quick agenda slide and then I'll go from there. So this is some of the topics we want to discuss today. As you see, there are a number of slides, but I'm going to go fairly quickly. Again, anyone have questions on any of these topics, by all means, please raise your hand and we'll address them. Go to the next slide. So what we wanted to do is start off with a little bit of a timeline. This is actually half the timeline. The next slide will be the other half, just to take us through what we've seen here in buses and what customers have seen since last spring. So some of the key pieces here I just want to discuss is or mention is, back in March, New York had its first case Just a few days later, buses ourselves had our first case, and we decided to start disinfecting in the beginning every 72 hours. As you know, we quickly pivoted and did it every night. So we've been disinfecting our buses every night. Couple of things that we did in buses to mitigate the virus, the spread of the virus is, as you remember, we went to rear door boarding. We shut off the front door. We put up a barrier there. You know, when the city had closed down, we saw a ridership drop precipitously, right? It was down well over 50%. And then as the city started to reopen, you know, some of that ridership came up. But during those early stages, it was not only the fact that customers were not using the bus, but really we had issues with our own workforce. You know, many of our workforce had come down with the virus. At the height, we had lost about 1/3 of our bus operators. They were out due to either being sick with the virus or quarantined because of a close contact. So as we all know, we had to change those schedules. And at one point, we were operating at about a 65% of a normal weekday. Elliot, we'll go to the next slide. As you know, we had the phased reopening. As you see, we started to restore service. At the height of ridership, before we opened up the front door, because we were not charging fares, we were at about 60% of pre-pandemic, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 million weekday riders. And I think some of that was due to discretionary trips where customers would otherwise walk or take another mode, and being that the bus was free, they were using the bus. When we started to collect fares back in August, the ridership, and again, we have a slide on this, I don't want to get too much into it, but it came back to about 47%, as you see. Currently, we're operating at about 50% pre-pandemic. As you see also, a couple other pieces, as we know, the 1 to 5 a.m., the subway shut down, so we added more buses and bus trips. When we opened up, we had a permanent driver barrier. And a lot of this, again, I don't want to be too redundant because we have slides on this. So why don't we go to the next slide? A lot of this I just discussed, you know, as far as ridership dropping to 20% normal levels. Front door boarding was suspended. We restored that August 31st with fare collection. I did mention about the disinfecting. One key piece that I did not mention is the requirement to wear masks. You know, really, you know, what we say here is that it's very difficult to socially distance on public transit, or you can't take the mask out of mass transit is another way that we say it. So it's so important that you wear your mask. And, you know, originally it was an executive order and there was a requirement. Most recently, the CDC under the new administration also came down with their own order that on all public transportation, customers and the driver must wear, bus operator must wear a mask. Our partners with MTA PD and NYPD and also the Eagle team and Bridge and Tunnel officers are helping us enforce that. What I would like to say is that we're very happy to say that when we do our surveys, we're up in the 99 percentile of mask usage. Again, I think everyone has their story when they get on a bus or a subway, how they see either no wearing a mask or a mask not worn properly. But overall, we are getting good numbers back when we do our surveys. One thing that just recently happened, folks on the call might have seen, is up to this week, we've been using the state-run center at the Javits Center to vaccinate our own employees. The MTA opened up its first vaccination center over at Livingston Plaza. It's going to go into full production on Monday, full operation on Monday. So we'll have both the Javits Center and also our own Livingston Plaza Center to vaccinate our employees. And then we're hopeful to continue that effort and open up more centers in the coming days or weeks, I should say. Next slide, please. So a little bit on the barriers. So all of our 4,800 local buses right now have this barrier here. And as you could see, if you, and I think everyone on this call are bus customers, they know it better than I do. They probably see it more than I do. But, you know, it's a sliding barrier. And what it's meant to do is that when the customer is interacting with the fare box, it provides that added layer of protection for our bus operators. So they should be sliding it forward when they're in the stop and then sliding it back when they're driving. It's not meant to be kept forward when it's driving due to mainly glare considerations. Looking ahead, we want to do something similar on the express buses. On our express buses, we still have a vinyl type of a temporary barrier, but we're working with the manufacturer to provide something more permanent on the express service. Next slide, please. Here's a little bit more of a in detail of ridership. So as you could see, our low point was back in April, where we dipped to, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 380,000 or so. We during the phase reopening, we increased ridership, as you see, to our pinnacle there of about 1.3, 1.4 million. And again, we're using a 2.1 million as pre-pandemic is what we use for weekday ridership. When fares were reinstated, it dropped back down to the million mark. We have seen days based upon what's happening in and around New York City, specifically the weather, where our weekday ridership drops into the 900,000s. I think as of this morning, we saw it go back up of 1 million. So it's been hovering right around 1 million trips a day, 1 million weekday trips a day. And that's where we've been standing. Next slide, please. A little bit on the overnight bus ridership. So immediately prior to the subway shutdown, we were doing about 8,000 bus trips a night. That's between 1 and 5. We had about 235, if I remember correctly, buses out there on the overnight on various routes. So that we're carrying about 8,000 riders. That immediately jumped up with the shutdown of the subways. People did start to use the bus system. I think at its height, and as you can see, that does fluctuate. I think at our height, we had over 20,000 trips, as you see here. And I think we've been hovering right around that, give or take, 19,000 to 20,000 trips. Even this week, as the subway came back, or as it's only down 2 to 4, bus ridership has stayed. We haven't seen a precipitous drop just yet of customers coming off the bus ridership. I think one point of note here that I don't think it actually says here, that pre-pandemic, our bus ridership on the overnight was, I think it was 30,000 trips, if I remember correctly. So we did have robust bus ridership pre-pandemic. So as we see ridership come back in daytime, we'll see, this should continue to grow despite the fact that subways is back up and running.
Craig, while you're there.
Yes.
So it doesn't get totally lost.
Yes.
Can you tell us how the new bus lines that sort of emulate subway lines, the BX99, the B99, the M9, how are they doing?
So I don't have the exact figures in my head, but they are carrying customers for sure. What we are in the process of doing, starting this week and over the next couple of weeks, is taking a really deep dive into not only those 3 routes, the BX, M, and B99, but any route that we enhanced service on, because if customers are switching back to the subway, we'll have to make some changes there. Yeah. What I would say in all transparency is that, this has all been done on overtime, right? We know the MTA's financial position right now. Yes. And that if customers are not using these extra trips, that we will have to, do something different. But sure, we are in the process of taking a deep dive, but they have been carrying up to now.
Can I ask, how do you count when you aren't taking fares? How do you count the riders?
Sure, that's a great question. We actually have a slide on that, but let me just answer that right now. We have automated passenger counters in about 40% of our local buses. So when we went to a rear door boarding and we didn't have the Metro card, we actually developed a passenger counting model that Elliot Ward, as you see here, let me give him a shout out on this call, actually developed. So we were using that during the time that we weren't collecting fares. Since we've reinstated fares, we've been using both the passenger counters and the fares. And sure enough, Elliot did a very good job. The model that he created is holding true with the fare collection. So that's how we do it. In cases where we have no passenger counting, like specific depots, we'll work with Sarah Weiss operations planning to do the point checks, right? The traffic counting type checks. But these passenger counters are really proven to be very successful, and we get great data from them. We'll move on, please. A little bit on bus speeds. So again, as we all would probably surmise and probably experienced, during the pandemic when traffic was at its lowest, bus speeds went up significantly. I think at its height, at a system, and this is a system level, we were over 9 miles per hour, which is significant for the bus system. That was not only because of travel times due to less traffic, but less dwell times due to less customers on board the bus, quite frankly. As you can see, as customers have come back, as traffic has come back, we're back at sort of pre-pandemic levels, which is right around the 8.5 bus speed level. But we are going to show you that we do have a slide on bus performance, which mirrors this, which shows that the bus system, both in regards to additional travel time and journey time, have, and here it is, have shown improvement. So we take a look at the period September 19th to September for January 20th versus the latest September 20, January 21st, basically the last 4 months. Customer journey time, just to reiterate, that's the metric that shows within 5 minutes of the scheduled time that your trip takes. So it's based upon an individual's trip. If we get you there within 5 minutes of the schedule, that's a success. And what that shows is prior to or last year at the same time period, we were doing less than 72% of those trips. It's been in the last 4 months over 80% of trips get you there within 5 minutes of what the schedule says. On the weight assessment side, again, it's 3 minutes. So the bus arrives to you at the bus stop within 3 minutes of the peak or 5 minutes in a non-peak trip. And again, you see it went from about 77% to over 80% during the time frame. So the bus system has been performing better in regards to having less traffic as well as less customers out there.
Craig,
That's good news. Yes.
as far as transit signal prioritization is concerned, we have my community board. I'm the co-chair of the transportation committee. We have recommended to the Department of Transportation at least 11 or 12 locations where we think your buses could be sped up if we had TSP. Is that something that you're also pushing for?
Yes, and then if you have specifics, we have a slide on that. So let's just, if you don't mind, we'll talk.
No
about
problem.
that on a
Sorry.
slide. But for sure. But let's move on and we'll talk more about that. So one key piece is, as folks might remember, it's all about what I always like to say is well-enforced bus priority. If we get the bus lanes, the busways, we use ABLE, TSP, we work with DOT on the fixed point cameras and the like, we can move our buses. So in regards to bus traffic enforcement, as you see, we have our onboard bus lane enforcement cameras. We had $80 million in the capital plan to really move this across the city. As we all know, the capital plan is on pause. But right now we have 123 buses across 7 routes. We've issued over 70,000 violations through the end of 2020, or actually it's warnings and violations. So it's a combination of both. So it does have the ability to pick up scofflaws and it does help, right? This is one piece. There's also another piece of our puzzle here with DOT's fixed post cameras. So what we try to do is we try to catch those vehicles that are in the bus lane, stopped in the bus lane. What DOT does is a vehicle's allowed to enter the bus lane, but they must make their first right turn out of the bus lane. The fixed post cameras captures those vehicles that continue across the intersection. And they have right now 190 locations. So between the two, it really is an effective system to keep those buses moving.
Greg, is one of those Main Street?
Hello?
Is one of those the Main Street busway? Was that did I see that they were just starting to do enforcement?
Yes, the Main Street has the fixed post cameras on there. We don't have any ABLE on there right now. Did someone else have a question?
Rudy. Oh, we lost her, I guess.
No? Okay, well.
You have me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Along Second, this thing still acts up. On the east side of Manhattan, especially along 2nd Avenue, the busway, and there are so many restaurants so that the bus lane in many cases is like 1 lane over. And then there are always cars parked there. I will go up to the driver and very nicely say, did you snap a picture of that or whatever? Most of them don't know what I'm talking about. Could you send something out again to all the drivers, but especially on the M15 and the 102, 101, 102, and 103, that I am assuming that most of those buses are equipped with the cameras, that they can just do a quick snap. They don't have to do anything else because it holds up traffic, something awful. And the drivers are wonderful. I'm not complaining about them, but a lot of them just don't seem to know what I'm talking about.
Sure. So a couple of things, Trudy, thank you for your comment. The M15 does have the cameras on there, not the 101, 2, and 3 yet, but we want to put them on there as soon as we get the money to move ahead. The drivers do not have to do anything in this regards. It's automated. So what happens is, let me just describe what happens. The first bus will take a picture of that vehicle in the bus lane. The second bus takes the same picture of that vehicle, and then it gets matched up in the back. And then if that vehicle is in that bus lane for more than the threshold a violation is issued. So they don't
So
know.
how does it get to you? I mean, so it's automatic. The driver doesn't have to do anything. Maybe that's why they don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
asking
no,
you.
we don't want to have driver intervention. We wanted them to focus on just getting you where you have to go safely. So it's automatic. It's automatic. It's two vehicles taking a picture of the same vehicle. It's two buses taking a picture of the same vehicle, and then that violation gets issued.
And how do you get the picture? Or how do the police or the traffic or whatever?
Right. What
It
happens?
automatically goes?
Yeah, every night when that bus gets back to the depot, it gets downloaded and all this information gets downloaded. On the back end, there's a powerful software that matches up pictures. So it matches up the license plate of the vehicle that's been standing there. And it says, okay, this vehicle was there for 5 minutes at East 72nd and 2nd Avenue. That vehicle gets issued a violation. It also knows that that vehicle now has done it 3 times in a row. So the violation then becomes triple. It's a cascading violation. From 50, it goes to $150 for that vehicle.
Craig, thank you so much for explaining how that works. I will share this information with an awful lot of people who have been as frustrated as I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing that we're working on, Trudy, and we've reached out to a number of locations, specifically on the east side of Manhattan, because we do see that, whether it be some Verizon, that we have some car rental facilities where we see a lot of violations being issued. So we're trying to also work not only by giving them violations, but work with them to stay out of those lanes. So, it's a 2-pronged effort there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, passenger counters. I think we had a question on this, but we've put passenger counters right now on 40% of all our buses. So we've used passenger counters in 3 ways. First way is we've exposed it on the My MTA app and also on the desktop version so that anyone that sees their bus coming will also know how many customers are on board, to give our customers the ability to make a decision. If they're not comfortable with the number of customers on board and the next bus is X minutes away, they can make that decision if those X minutes works for their trip. So that's the first thing. Looking ahead, we want to have more and more of these. As you see, we have about 750 new buses coming in 21 with all passenger counters. And we have money in the capital program. As soon as we get that money to be used, we'll continue our retrofits. The other 2 ways is more on the back end. We want to give information to our service managers. So when a dispatcher makes a decision to move a bus or a service management decisions, they know exactly how many customers they might be intruding on, right? How many customers are on that bus. And then last but not least is we give this information to our schedule department to make sure that the service that's out there is matching up with the ridership that's there. So, as in the past, when we had to do manual traffic checks, we weren't as nimble as we are today, where we could use this automated passenger counting information and change the schedules more often based upon what we need out there. So that's the 3 ways. Next slide, please. Bus priority. So this year in 2020, actually DOT, who's our partner in bus priority, as we all know, bus lanes and busways, they surpassed their goal, right? They put in more busways this year than they have put in years past. 16.4 total miles of busways and bus lanes, as you can see, right? On top of that, Andrew, you were talking about TSP. We had 648 new TSP intersections. 24 of them just happened on a BX 1 or 2. And now we have over 1,500 intersections citywide. So it really was a good year in regards to what work DOT was able to accomplish during 2020. Now, you had a specific question or a comment, Andrew. Happy to take it now about on the west side where you...
Oh, yeah, we have suggested about 10 or 12 locations that we think TSP could really move your buses where they're getting hung up for a variety of reasons.
So if you could just send them over to us, we're happy to work with DOT to see we get those implemented.
Absolutely will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, we, when I say we, the MTA, really Sarah has been pushing for 60 new miles, I should say, of bus lanes. So we continue to push and work with DOT. I'm hopeful that we have a nice opportunity now with the new Commissioner Gutman now that's going to be here for the year, that we could really make a good push with him and get some more bus lanes and ways across the city. So excited about that. Next slide, please. What we wanted to share is, as we know, one of our latest busways was the Flushing Main Street busway. We wanted to share some, we're all happy about that, Lisa, thank you. We wanted just to share some latest results from there. What we see here is that bus speeds have increased 9% in the AM peak and about 20% in the PM peak. So that's, it's early news, good news. We're hopeful that we see more of this as we implement more busways throughout the city. Next slide, please. Okay, I know everyone's interested in bus redesign. Right now, the bus redesign is still on pause. As we all know, one of the key aspects of bus redesign is a robust public outreach. We saw that in Staten Island, our only implementation, and made it very successful. As you know, we were ready to implement the Bronx redesign when we put that on pause, and we were having a robust public outreach, which Mark was leading in Queens, Mark Holmes here. And so, given that we couldn't do this outreach during the pandemic, it's on pause. We're working on ways that we could restart the effort, and we'll have more of that in the coming weeks or months to talk about. But right now,
Maybe it's a robust outreach.
Robust. I get it. Nice. That's a good one. Okay.
Couldn't resist that one. Sorry.
I'm gonna use that one, Andrew. I'm gonna use that one. Okay. Next slide, please. Also, what you're going to be seeing on the buses, we've been working closely first with Alex Elagudin and his team. Now we'll be working with Q Mello Arroyo, the new MTA system-wide accessibility officer, on changes to the configurations inside the bus as well. So all new buses that come on the property, you'll see we changed our specs. They're going to have wider ramps. They're going to have a wider rear door and additional flip-up seats. So that's great news for those that need additional space and to navigate around the bus. One other thing that we are exploring is the implementation of hearing loops for customers that have that ability, that use that technology for their hearing impairment. So those are some things you're going to see in the coming year and then further on in regards to accessibility improvements. Next slide, please. I know we spoke about it and folks have heard about our new bus command center and bus radio. At the top here, you see a picture of what the theater looks like today. We have the video walls up. We have the desks in. Below, you see what the CAD, computer-aided dispatch screen, will look like for the bus operator. There's currently only 6 buses with that system right now. We're still working with the vendor on how we need to implement that. And then we're hopeful that by the end of this year, 21, we have that implemented system-wide. Really, that provides us a great opportunity to centralize service management in our new command center, to improve the performance and improve the product that customers are seeing. That screen that you see there, bus operators will be given information such as schedule adherence, headway adherence, and we'll be able to communicate better with our customers. So we're really excited about this system and hopeful that we get this in 21. Next slide, please. Omni, all our buses have now Omni. At the end of 2020, it was fully implemented. They've been all wired up for both front, rear door, and in some cases 3 doors, right? And they actually have the Omni validator in the second and the third door in most boroughs. We need to go back to Staten Island to add the validator on the rear door. It wasn't done originally, but that gives us a great opportunity in the coming years to implement all-door boarding system-wide. What we really need to do that is a proof of payment type system and have a decision on whether or not we're going to be accepting cash on board our buses or coinage. When the MTA puts out its own dedicated card so that customers can use cash, go to their local Dwayne Reed and buy this card at no additional cost, then we have an opportunity to get rid of that fare box and allow customers to board from all 2 or 3 doors and really speed up, reduce our dwell times. So that's another great opportunity we have.
Greg, I cannot resist asking this question.
Sure.
Is there going to be an electric eye or something under the steps on the rear doors of the Arctics, for instance, that lets the Omni reader know that somebody has boarded and you expect a tap?
So no, what it is a couple of things, Andrew. So we do have on the rear doors our passenger counters, right? We also have cameras in most of our buses. So we are looking to use some technology to help us where we see pervasive fare evasion, and to work with the PD and the like to to sort of cut back on some of that. And then also we are going to have to make an investment on like Eagle Team for sure, right? But as far as what you're describing, no, there won't be anything like that.
Okay, so if somebody is recorded in the system cameras in the buses as boarding through a rear door and not tapping, how do you identify that person if they don't have a criminal record, for instance?
Right. So the way we would envision enforcement happening is that Eagle Team would come on board. The Eagle Team would have a verification device, right? It's an electronic device.
Yeah, sure. Proof of payment device. Yeah.
Proof of payment, right. They would go to the customer and say, please show me, the medium with which you tapped on. It could be a smartphone. It could be a credit card. It could be the dedicated card.
Right.
They would tap it to their verifier. And if that verifier shows that it was not a payment, the person would be issued a violation. Now,
so the card, the Omni account number or whatever it is programmed into the system, and it will know if it was just used.
Exactly. Yes. That verifier will know that that was just used in regards to paying for this bus. So
Right.
the Eagle Team would know yes or no, and then if it was a no, we'd have to issue a violation.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is a little slide with a little levity. I don't know if anyone saw the Super Bowl, the commercial, but really, we made a commitment to all electric fleet in 2040. And since the new administration, there's really been a big commitment to all electric vehicles. Some of the things we've recently heard is General Motors announced that they're going to all electric by 2035. Announcement to replace the entire federal fleet of 645,000 vehicles. So, we're fully committed and we wanted to give an update on where we are. So next slide. So we still have our 10 lease buses, 5 are operating across the M42 and 5 of them are operating in Brooklyn. We also have 15 all-electric buses that operate both on the M14 and also the SBS 60. At the end of this year, we're going to be going out for 45 new standard electric buses. That's in our program. We're working with NYPA, New York Power Authority, to provide charging infrastructure in 5 depots right now across the city where we want to deploy these buses. And our expansion plans are we still have 500 all-electric buses in the 20 to 24 capital plan. Again, it's currently on pause. The extent that the capital plan will come back, what percentage, 100%, 60, 80, we're not sure yet. But right now, there's still 500 and we're still committed to that 2040 date. So we're excited to charge ahead with that.
I seem to recall, Craig, some recent bus purchases that came through the board that were not all electric, though. You're still purchasing some hybrids, right?
Yeah, so we're going to, come 2028, all bus purchases will be all electric. Up until then, we'll be buying a mix of CNG, hybrid, and diesel. What I would say is that the 2024 plan, though, about 40% of the total number of buses are, it's 40 or 60 now. I think it's 40? Yeah. Okay, it's 40. Saphira's reminding me it's 40. Are alternative fuel. In other words, there's some mix of CNG, hybrid, or electric.
Right.
So I think we're buying about 2,400 buses, and 40% of them will be alternative. The one key.
But of course, the buses that are not all electric now have how many years of life left to them? 30? 20?
No, 12.
12 is only the life of a bus now?
Yeah, we programmed the buses for 12.
Okay.
In honesty, because of the capital funding, they go longer, 15, sometimes 18.
Yeah.
But we plan for 12. So that's why I said 2028, because they should be retired in 2040, giving us an all-electric fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're confusing is the subway cars that go, 40? They go 40.
No, I know they go 40. Well, some of them have gone a lot longer than 40, unfortunately.
Yeah, we go 12. And I think that's the presentation that we prepared. So I hope folks on the call found it somewhat interesting and informative, and happy to take questions.
And I know we have some.
First, I just want to say thank you. It was really terrific.
Yeah, really terrific.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Members, any questions?
I have one.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I've noticed that sometimes the bus drivers seem to pause. Are they now being required to follow the schedules that they have?
Well, yeah, bus operators are always required to follow the schedules, right? That's how we get you the bus when you expect it. I think what you might be seeing is a couple of things happening here. In some cases where bus speeds have increased, specifically, we see this on the busways. When we first implement the busway, the schedules we implement, because, you know, it's hard to come up with the assumption of how fast those buses will be traveling. So, you know, until we have the next schedule put in, sometimes bus operators are running ahead of schedule. So they're trying to stay to schedule.
Yeah.
What I think you might be experiencing is some of that where bus speeds have improved. But I understand it's a little frustrating as a bus customer when buses are paused at a light, you know, trying to kill a light. And Devon is working on this to you know, get the schedules in there so that they're not doing that, is the point.
So update the schedules to reflect the fact that
Right.
there's busways now.
Right, update the schedules a little quicker to reflect the new travel times.
Great.
Hi, this is Trudy.
Yes, Trudy.
Craig, I actually want to give you a compliment because, you know, I've spent a lot of these meetings complaining, but something that I called to your attention last year has been corrected along 2nd Avenue, where I talked about the buses where the SBS and the regular M15 stop, and that the drivers did not, you know, at least give enough time that you could go from one part of the stop to the other. I just want to tell you that they have, in the last couple of months, they have been absolutely wonderful. They still pull into their portion of the stop, but if you signal that you know, and that you want to get to the other portion, because you never know if it's going to be an regular M15 or an SBS, they either pull up or they wait. And they have just been wonderful. I don't know if you sent out a notice or whatever, but I just want to, since I'm usually complaining, I just want to give a compliment and thank you for whatever you did.
Well, Trudy, thank you very much for that compliment. Much appreciated. What I'd like to do is give a compliment and shout out to Devon Rogers, because prior to being asked to take on the role of VP of Transportation, he was the general manager of Manhattan. So anything that you see that changes to the better, we could attribute to Devon's hard work. So thank you.
Well, Devon, thank you so much. You've made my life and the life of so many people who take the M15 and the 15 SBS so much simpler and more pleasant. And thank you.
You're most welcome, Trudy.
And Trudy, I'm sure they sent out your picture too, so that helped.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. Thank you.
Anybody else on the members who have a question?
Andrew, I wanted to ask Craig a
Go ahead,
question.
Stuart.
So in the cleaning schedule, the 24-hour schedule, are there any other instances where you would have more frequent cleaning for whatever reason? Like here in the office setting, if someone was reported a positive COVID diagnosis, there's more intense cleaning. Is there anything that would require more frequent cleaning than the 24-hour cycle right now?
Sure. So no, at this point, you know, every bus that goes into service gets cleaned, you know, before it goes into service every 24 hours. You know, if I guess what you're describing is that, and we do this in the depot environment. Like if we know that a person reports that they come down with COVID, and we know the area, like for instance, a dispatcher works in an office, we are going to clean that office more intense. But you know, every night all our buses get an intense disinfecting, so that's what we do. What I would say is just to share some of the challenges around that. I mean, you know, we put out roughly 5,000 buses a day, and to disinfect 5,000 buses and to disinfect them well is a heck of a lot of employee resources that go into that. You know, every day, we you know, thousands of hours worth of work go into that. So that's what we're doing. And you know, early on we were testing, and we're still testing different types of technology to do that. You know, we originally started with hand wipes, you know, hand wipe down. Now we have electrostatic sprayers that you know, they're backpacks. So the cleaners and bus operators that are doing the work are spraying down, electrostatic spraying down with the disinfectant on the bus. And we're also testing along with subways some ultraviolet lights and some other things. But right now it's still the 24-hour disinfecting. Majority have done is with electrostatic sprayers.
Thank you.
Sure, Stuart.
Anyone else?
I have a question, and sorry, I know Sharon, you do, and Bradley does, and I know Ron Troy has a question. But I just want to go back real quick, because I was letting people in and stuff. So you may have mentioned this when we were talking about the overnight and restoration that you had, that you increased service. I think you said something like 65% during to accommodate overnight. So what I've written down, I just want to make sure it's right, was that that there was about 8,200, 8,500 pre-overnight shutdown, and that you increased service by about 1,000 trips, 50%, more than 50%. And that the,
right.
so could you just tell
Yeah.
me, so that I'm not guessing, that I'm not reimagining your words,
Right.
what the increase to overnight service was,
Sure.
if you see that sustaining, and if you're planning any reductions because of the compression.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the exact figures, we can get you the exact figures, but more or less in round figures, we were doing about 8,000 trips immediately prior to the subway shutdown on the overnights. And we were carrying those 8,000 trips with roughly 230, 235 buses is my recollection, right? When we went to the shutdown 1 to 5, we added, I think we were doing over 500 buses across these routes. That's even before the 3 dedicated routes, the B, the BX, and the M99. Since then, you know, we were watching ridership. Some of those 500 buses did get scaled back, and then we added on to these 3 routes. So we can get you the exact numbers. But what we're seeing is that we're carrying now about 20,000 trips on the overnight, and that's been steady.
Thanks. Were there any surprises in where you were seeing those on any of the lines that you saw the increases?
Well, the only surprises, and I wouldn't say it's a surprise, we did try to put some added express service early on, if you remember, and really they wasn't carrying. So we changed some of that out, and we reinvested some of that into these B, M, and BX 99s, which seem to be doing a little better than the express buses were. That would be the only thing I would characterize as maybe a surprise or something unexpected.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody? Bradley, your hand was up?
My hand's up.
I think Sharon was first.
Sharon. Okay.
I'm sorry. I read that about 140 transit workers have been lost to COVID. Do you have any idea what % of them were bus drivers? Are they more vulnerable?
Yeah, no, so no, they're not more vulnerable. We had 41 bus operators pass, you know, as part of that. And it's been a mix of, you know, both bus operators and also, you know, maintainers and other titles. You know, quite frankly, I still don't believe that the contraction of, and again, I'm not an epidemiologist, so I'm just taking for what this is worth. It wasn't happening on board the bus. Really, what we found was, you know, early on when you have these big swing rooms, you know, bus depot is an industrial setting. So when you have large groups of people that early on were not socially distancing, were not wearing masks, didn't know all the precautions we knew today, when one person came down with it, it was easily contracted, and we saw some spread that way because, again, it wasn't not just bus operators, but we saw it in the maintainer ranks and stuff. So we quickly had to shift to, you know, requiring masks, to requiring social distancing, and then putting up a bunch of engineering type mitigations inside the bus depots. You know, a lot of plexiglass. You know, we weren't allowing our employees to sit around a lunch table like they would before and eat together. You know, we were alternating shifts so that everyone didn't come together. When we started to do those kind of things, we saw changes in the infection rate.
Our condolences on your losses.
Thank you.
All right. Can I go,
Bradley.
Andrew? Thanks.
Yes.
So Craig and company, thank you so much for coming to our meeting. We always look forward to you guys coming and answering all of our questions. So our intern, Gav Mazurek, and myself have been looking at the capital program and all the projects that are on hold, including the electric bus purchases. So we do have a whole host of questions, which we can ask at another time, but I was hoping that either maybe you or Elliot could speak a little bit to especially the charging infrastructure that you have it outlined for some of the depots. And there's been 19 depots that have been identified close to the third rail and what the possibilities of using the third rail to charge buses en route. And basically like what you see as some of the major obstacles in getting the infrastructure in place so that we can actually charge the buses and keep them charged for service.
Sure, sure. I mean, Ellie could talk a little bit, but just in regards to what we've been working on, while the capital program is on pause, we've been working behind the scenes with our partners at construction and development specifically to develop our sort of master plan to get us from where we are today to 2040. And part of the master plan, it requires us to work with not only Con Edison, New York Power Authority, but also internally. We have had discussions not only with subways, as you say, the third rail, but Long Island Railroad, where they have traction power in and around close to the depots, specifically East New York Depot, which, as you know, borders the subway and also Long Island Railroad. We think there might be opportunities to use traction power there. But again, I think, the technology, the electric bus technology is so, it's still maturing. So even in regards to the charging infrastructure, there'll be different charging strategies that we know of today that will be evolving over the next 20 years. Smart charging software, demand pricing with Con Edison. And, those are the kind of discussions we've been having. In regards to, more specifics, I'm sure Elliot will be happy to have some more conversation with you, but he's really been, heading up on the planning efforts there.
Maybe solar charging could happen at some point.
So we've seen in other jurisdictions where not only solar panels, but like where transit agencies have compressed natural gas infrastructure, they could generate some of that electricity locally.
Oh, great.
We've seen that. So there are a number of different charging strategies that are still evolving. And again, we look forward to being part of those conversations and part of that maturation.
Great. And I'm not sure, maybe Elliot, you could answer this. Our intern, Gav Mazurek, has a great question that she would like to ask. So Gav, take it away.
Hi, thanks for such an informative presentation. One more question. I know that you've said that the all electric buses charge en route and plug in at the depot right now. Do the depots also peak shave using a distributed energy resource within the depot, or charge on strategically different schedules? It just seems like it would be a strain on the grid for all of the buses to charge around the same time at night, even at different depots.
Yeah, we're definitely thinking about that, and we've been working with Con Ed to, they have a rebate program to encourage that sort of peak shaving. Right now, our scale of buses is not so big that we're a big demand. So it's something that we're thinking about in the future and are laying the groundwork to really work on. The only other thing I'll mention that's in our favor is that we're going to be charging mostly overnight, which is right when the demand is low for the rest of things. So that's a really big sort of structural advantage for us with charging. But these are all the questions that we're asking ourselves at the same time. And, like Craig said, we'd be happy to, speak with you in more detail about any of this if you'd like.
Great, because we would. So we'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One of the questions that we had last month was about taking Arctics off the road during snow. And if that's a standard practice and why, and if there was anything you could wanted to add to that.
Oh, sure. So, I mean, we struggled with what's the best strategy to provide bus service through snowstorms, specifically in regards to articulated buses. Let me just give a little bit of a flavor of why. The articulated buses, the rear wheels, the third axle is the drive axle. It's actually pushing, right? So when a bus operator makes a turn, right, just think about that third axle pushing, the bus is bending, and then if you lose traction, what happens is the bus jackknifes, right? That's really the challenge there, okay? And so we and if you remember a few years ago, we had a lot of issues in regards to buses being stuck, jackknife and the like. So what we did is a few years ago, we went to all-weather tires. All-weather tires seem to help when it's not too much snow on the ground and specifically not much ice, right? They give the bus a little bit more traction, give our bus operators a little bit more confidence. But still, in regards to the articulated buses, they still provide a challenge, even with the all-weather tires. So, you know, the last few snowstorms we've had forecast well over 6 inches, right, if you remember, right? And really, we have to make a decision based upon the forecast. We can't wait. You know, in order for us to make a decision on whether we pull the articulators off or chain, we need to do something about 36 to 48 hours in advance. When we pull the articulators off, we have to reduce some of our schedules, and we have to move nearly 1,000 buses back and forth. You know, it's about 400 both ways, so that's why I said 1,000. Because some of our depots, say in Manhattan and the Bronx, they don't have enough standard buses to replace, so we have to move from other boroughs. So really, we made those decisions this year mainly based upon the forecast. What I would say is it seems like it was a successful decision, because based upon the fact that we're still operating well over 70-75% of peak ridership, and peak service, and we see ridership down below 30 to 50%. There's still enough capacity. We haven't gotten many buses stuck. I would give a shout out to Commissioner Grayson. He's doing a phenomenal job from our point of view in keeping our bus routes clear, better than what we've seen in the past. And you know, that's some of the rationale of thinking of why we do that. You know, I think, you know, whenever you see a forecast that's over 6 inches, we'll probably continue to do that.
And some routes had both Arctics and single length buses, like the M86 and the M79.
Yeah, depending on, I think, the time of day, you know, how the snowfall is going. Sometimes you'll see both. You know, I think some of that is that we're transitioning, pulling the Arctics off and putting on the 40-footers. But, you know, specifically on the overnight service, you should only see the 40-footers, you know, because that's when we'll experience some icing, and we don't want those Arctics out there.
Right.
Thank you. I know that Ron Troy has had a question, that he has been patient. Ron, are you still there? Do you want me to ask that?
Yeah, I'm actually still, I am on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
A couple years ago, you truncated the southern end of the M4 bus so that it was no longer near Penn Station. Now, that bus was used by a lot of commuters to get into Midtown. It was also used by a lot of people to get to Museum Row, and also to, I forget the name of the museum, the front part of the Met near Fort Tryon. And it made getting to the museums miserable. And it was a particularly nasty thing to do. It was done on like 1 or 2 day notice. And it just, you know, it also made, from Penn Station. So you get off a train at Penn Station. You used to walk the half block, get on the M4, and it was a very easy commute to Midtown, or all the way to Museum Row, or all the way up to the northern Manhattan. And then all of a sudden, instead, you had a very long walk. If you wanted to take the Queens bus Q32, it would be extremely overcrowded, which was nasty to people going to Queens. That the M4 bus needs to start by Penn. I know that Department of Transportation had some glorious idea of what they wanted to do, but the M4 bus needs to be at Penn.
Yeah, I think Sarah Weiss is on the call. I think she has a little bit more history on that. You know, my recollection was that stemmed from a Penn Station redevelopment project there. But Sarah, can you give a little flavor of why that happened?
Yes, that's correct. The block where the Q32 and the M4 used to have their first stop and layover, DOT extended the sidewalk in order to create more room for pedestrians. This, however, meant there was not room for both buses to lay over at that point. So we did need to reroute the M4.
Yeah, well, the reason they needed to extend the sidewalk is because of the continued closure of the passage underneath that street to Herald Square. So if they reopened that passage, they wouldn't need that extra sidewalk space, and the M4 could go back where it needs to be. And the reason they don't open up that passage is the developer was holding it hostage to tearing down the Hotel Pennsylvania. In other words, a whole bunch of shenanigans. Also because MTA didn't want to provide police, cleaning services, lighting, etc. for that passage. So get the passage open, keep it clean, keep it patrolled, keep it safe, put the M4 bus back where it belongs. And, you know, I think things would be a lot better for a lot of people. It was a horrible thing to do to people who have trouble walking, which includes me, includes my wife, and a lot of other people, and includes a lot of people who wanted to go take a train into Manhattan, into Penn, and then go to Museum Mile or go to Fort Tyrant, let alone people who wanted to use the M4 bus to get
Hey,
to
Ron, if you're going to take the M4 from 32nd Street to Fort Tryon Park, I hope you've packed a nice lunch.
Oh, yeah, it's a wonderful way to go. It was a really good way. And
It's hours compared to the A trains, 30 minutes or less.
Yeah,
Thank you for your comment though, Ron.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
Please think about it. My wife
It's
said,
a scenic ride, I'll give you that.
It's also a good way to commute into Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, guys.
I think Bert has a question. Bert, did you have your hand raised? Bert, you're on mute.
Thank you. I muted it. No, first of all, Ron, your point is well taken. You know, it wasn't an MTA decision, but you know, we could reach back around with DOT and see if there's any change in status there. No, what I just wanted to say is I do have a 2 o'clock with the union that I have to get on. So it's 1:59. So just want to
Thank you so much, Craig.
Oh,
Yes,
it's
thank you.
2. Wow.
And all your folks.
Thanks.
Thank you all so very much. It's
So
a
informative.
pleasure. If anybody has questions that we're not able to get to, please send them to me and we will share them.
Yeah, and we will answer them. You know,
All
thank
right.
you, everyone.
always do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your advocacy and support. Thank you very much.
Let
Thanks,
us know if
Craig.
there's anything we can do.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Stay safe, everyone. Stay safe.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
You too.
We adjourn?
Andrew, you still here? There you are.
Yes, does anyone have any other issues before we'll take a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Andrew.
Yes, Stuart.
Something for new business for next time.
Sure.
I unfortunately didn't keep a copy of the article, but there was an article talking about how the air quality in the subway system was evaluated and was extremely poor.
Mhm.
And I think we should get some more information for the board to hear about how they're responding to this survey and what they're doing about it, and what the ridership could do to mitigate.
Yes, Stuart, when we got told about that at a board briefing, I asked the question, how many times was each station surveyed and for how long?
Right.
I said there could have been an event, there could have been something on the street up top and it seeped down through the gratings. I mean, it could be any number of things. Could have been a track fire, could have been a diesel work train going through. Just how often? They said they would get back to me on that, and I hope that I will get that info in time. But I understand that Christopher Street on the path line was the worst in the entire nation or something.
Right.
I put a link to the study in the chat. One of the things that I think that I read was, or when response to some of the questions, was that each one was studied for 10 minutes or less.
Right. And on a one-time only basis, right?
I believe
Right. So
still scary.
it's scary, but I would want to hear from people at the authority telling us how they interpret this and where we go from here.
Right. And I'm assuming also that if the pilot that is currently underway on Long Island Railroad and Metro North for the electrostatically charged air filtering is successful, that could be used system-wide through various methods. But
but wait, because that we might find out next Thursday. I'm going to find out. In fact, we will find out next Thursday, because Nora will be joining the Transit Tech Lab in a conversation about that ventilation system.
Excellent.
At our PCAC meeting.
Yes.
Yes. So that meeting is next week at noon.
So that's a great. So maybe we can present some questions in advance so that she's prepared.
Well, they're 2 different things. So one is the ventilation system on board.
Yeah.
And the other is related to this particular study, which is on stations.
No, but I'm saying if that office is considering this and if those technologies have applicability for the subway system if they've considered that.
All right, if you have questions you in advance, please send them my
Absolutely.
way.
No, that's the question. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Anything else, folks? All right, we'll see you next Thursday, and everyone stay safe. Thank you so much.
Be well.
Thank you. Have a good week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.